Last week I had the issue that I needed some animations in my React components. I had some styled components and I didn't want to install external dependencies. So today I want to explore with you how to animate in CSS with styled components and have some animation that looks like this in the end. So let's directly jump into the code and look how we can achieve that. So let's assume we want to have an animation that looks like this. If we click some details, they will animate in and out. And the second animation we want to explore is something that is scrolling in. So if you scroll down and it will be visible in the viewport, it will show. And if you do it again, it will again show up. So these are the two animations I want to explore with you in React and in styled components. So the first one, it's a bit easier. So let's take a look at this one first, and afterwards we take a look at the second one. So I have a few styled components. So we have the image, the card, and the button. So this is the image here, the card, and the button. These are just for styling, not really important. But the more important part is the details container. So what we are doing here is basically opacity is 1 or 0, depending on the state of the container, so if it's visible or not. And we just define the transition of opacity. So we set the opacity and we define some transition. And then in the code down below, we just set the state to not the old state. So if you click the button, it will open or close the details card. So what we are doing is just giving the prop into the styled container or in the styled component if it's open or closed. And inside we can do whatever we want. We can set a card in here. We can also copy the button and put it in here again, and it will have the same animation. So we can just animate the button in and out. Yeah, so this one was the easier one because we have some state and we will show and hide based on the state. If you're interested in the source code, I can link it down below. If you have any suggestions how to do it better, I would also happy to learn from you. This is how I usually do it. Yeah, and then the second one, this is a bit more complex. So we have again all the styling here. So this is not the important one, but what is important is basically the animated props for the div element, because we again have the container is wrapped in a div that is animating the container. So we say, okay, if it's visible, we want to have the animation of fade in for 1 second. We want to have the animation forward and it should have a delay. Why do we want to have a delay? Basically just because we want to have them one by another. If we would remove the delay, they would just appear all at once, and it looks nicer if they have a delay and appear one after another. But how do we achieve that this is like coming in while scrolling? Make it a bit more visible where the view container is ending. So let's set the background color to red. So we see, okay, we have this whole view container, and if we scroll in, it will be visible. And the visibility we will basically check with a function. We take the reference to the object, so we have a reference to our container. So we check if the container bounding rect, so the outer container basically of the element, if the top element, so if this top rectangle is smaller than the inner view height, or if the bottom element is over 0. So we check basically if this one is inside the view or not. So what we are creating is the on-screen hook. So it takes the reference to the div element and it creates a function that is basically called on scroll. So what we are doing is we check if it's currently in the view, so the reference element, is it currently visible or not, and set then the visibility. And then we create an event listener on the scroll event and check on every scroll if the element is visible or not. And in the end, we will remove this event listener. So if we remove this, if the hook in general is removed. And then we can just use it. So what we are doing is basically we create a component that takes the children and the delay, and this component creates a reference on itself. So we set the reference, we say use ref, it's an HTML div element because we know this is a div element here, and we set the reference to ourselves. We set the visibility to the hook of the is it currently on screen, and we give it a delay. This is just a delay when if it's visible it should be triggered. And if we use it, then we can just create, in this case, an array of 20. So we can also create an array of 10. And we just wrap whatever we want to show, in this case, our card. We wrap it inside in the animation controller, and we say, okay, it should have a delay of 250 times the position in the array. So the first one starts at 0, and the second one at 250 milliseconds, and so on and so forth. We can also make this like faster. Now it should appear way faster. And yeah, this is how to create an animation that appears on scroll, and it will also reappear every time. So this is how you create an animation with styled components, React and CSS. I hope you learned something. Let me know down in the comments how you do usually animations, or if you use any library that is helping you. I know that React Spring exists. It is really awesome. I used it also for quite some time, but in some projects you don't have the freedom to include any library you want. So it's good to know how to do it yourself. Let me know down in the comments what you want to see next time, or if you have any suggestions or any change requests. See you next time.